Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing some cards I made using Love from Lizi's North Pole Special Edition Christmas Kit. This kit is not part of the monthly subscription and can be purchased individually. There's also another Christmas kit called Twilight Christmas, and it's beautiful. I do have an unboxing video showing everything that's included in both of the special edition Christmas kits, and there's also a couple of Christmas paper collections that are available. Let's go ahead and get started with card number 1. I have some beautiful snowflake paper for the background. This kit includes 8 sheets of decoupage, and I love the decoupage. It's so fun. There are several different layers. You can add foam dimension and make them super thick, or you could just add a couple of the layers if you don't want quite as much dimension. I have layers number 1 and 2, so I have that background piece, added some foam dimension to the back of layer 2. Then the kit also has these little washi tape stickers. So I'm adding a present and also this sweet little reindeer, putting them on top of that little snow mound, and part of them will be covered up when I add the next decoupage piece. For the background, I'm adding a strip of blue cardstock just to anchor that decoupage image. Cut my piece too long, so I just flipped over the panel to trim it off. For a little extra shine on the edge of that blue cardstock strip, I'm adding some clear silver mirror peel-offs. This is the pinstripe style. I'm able to use some of the scraps since most of this area won't be visible. I just wrap the ends around the back, put some ATG tape on the back of this panel, and layer it on some blue cardstock. This blue cardstock is not included in the kit. The kit does have 1 sheet of alcohol marker friendly white cardstock, and then there's 2 pearlescent cardstocks, 1 in green and 1 in gold. So I put my card front onto a card base. And all of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, so 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. I'll add this first piece of the decoupage image, and I decided to glue it down using some liquid adhesive. Now we're on to layer number 3. I'm using some of the foam squares, and these are included in the kit. They're very thin, so if you don't want really thick dimension, these are perfect. For that first piece of decoupage, I did use some foam dimension from my craft room, just the basic stuff from Scotch. So I'm adding 1 more piece, just the top portion of the sign. This is Santa, please stop here. And these are so easy to line up. So there you can see that little bit of dimension. It's not real thick. I wouldn't suggest mailing it since you would have to pay extra for postage. Now to finish off the card, I'm adding 1 of the pre-tied bows that's included in the kit. I just put a glue dot on the back and I'll adhere it underneath the little sign. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 1. The kit includes both 8x8 and 6x6 pattern paper. So for some of the cards I'm using the 8x8, and for others I'm switching to the 6x6. For card number 2, I have the pattern paper with a bunch of Christmas sentiments all over the background. I'm adding a strip of the green, white, and red pattern paper, putting some of the green holographic peel-offs along the edge of that stripe paper, just for a little extra sparkle. And these peel-offs are included in the kit. You do get a full sheet, but I decided to use my partial sheet before I start on a new sheet. So I'll just wrap those ends around the back. Put some ATG tape on the back of this piece and adhere it to the left side of the card. Then I'll layer my card panel on some dark green cardstock. Put my card front onto a card base, and for this card I am leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For my cardstock layers on the cards, I generally add an additional 1/8 of an inch. I don't like really wide matting most of the time, so that 1/8 of an inch is enough for me. For the image, I'm using 1 of these little die cut pieces, little ephemera pieces. They're fairly thick. Decided I wanted that matted layer, so I'm adding it to some green cardstock. And this is so easy to trim out. Just use my scissors and cut it along the edge. Now before I attach that piece, I want to keep it at the same level as the little stripe paper, so I'm adding some of the thin foam squares to the right side of that ephemera piece. Generally I would use cardstock, but these are the perfect thickness. I'll remove the release paper, put liquid adhesive on the left side of that ephemera piece, and adhere it to the card. There's grid lines in the background, so it's really easy to get it nice and straight. I'll add one of the cardstock stickers in the lower left-hand corner. This is Merry Christmas, and it has a pretty gold foil finish on it. And there already is foam dimension on the back of these little sentiment pieces. To finish off the card, I'm adding some green gemstones in the upper right-hand corner, and these are left over from the October Love from Lizi kit. So there's my finished card, and this is card number 2. For card number 3, I embossed the green pearlescent cardstock that's included in the kit, and I'll add that onto my white card base. I'll leave that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Overall, this is a very simple card, but I think having that pearlescent cardstock, the polka dot embossing, and then that glitter from the decoupage really adds a lot of interest. This was my favorite decoupage image. It's got Merry Christmas, and there's Rudolph, at least I think it's Rudolph since he has a red nose. Has the little mountains and some trees in the background. I love this gold yellow frame that goes around the whole image and sentiment. So for this second decoupage sheet, you can see I needed to add quite a few of these little foam squares. That way I didn't have any areas that were sagging. Now I'll add the third piece, and this piece just has the mountains and the reindeer and the little trees. I'll also add a piece to pop up the sentiment. And then I have the 2 little trees, which they're really tiny, so I did have to cut down some of those foam squares. And once those are in place, to finish off the card, I'm using one of the dies that's included in the kit. There's 5 different dies. So I have the snowflake, and I cut these out from some gold mirror cardstock that I have on hand. I'll put 1 in the upper left-hand corner and 2 in the lower right-hand corner. I'm adhering that first snowflake using a small glue dot. Then I decided on those lower 2 snowflakes that I'd pop those up. So I'm cutting some of these small squares even smaller. So I just have a tiny little piece in the center of the snowflakes. I love the colors and all that pretty sparkle and shine. So there's my finished card, and this is card number 3. Definitely one of my favorites, but do let me know which card is your favorite. For card number 4, I'm using a card sketch for inspiration. This is Freshly Made Sketches number 500. I have this fun pattern paper for the background with all the little designs, and this red has a little more of an orange color than just red. I'm adding a 2-inch strip that has the elves and Santa and the reindeer all on these little scallop frames. Layered that on some green cardstock. Before I adhere that piece, I decided to add some of the green holographic peel-offs across the lower portion of the card. Most of them won't be seen. I will be covering them up with the pattern paper and also a sentiment. So I'm putting 2 different strips. I have the medium width and also the narrowest width. Just wrap those ends around the back. I realized I didn't have the one piece quite long enough, although it actually would have been fine since once I added the sentiment, most of it was covered up. So I'll layer this first panel on. It really is more of an orange colored cardstock. Then I'll layer that on some green cardstock. Put my card front onto a card base, and for this card I will have that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Now I can add that other pattern paper strip on the left hand side. For the sentiment, I'm using some of the foam stickers. So they're very sticky. They do have adhesive on the back. I'll add the Merry Christmas in that lower right hand corner. Then I'll also add some of the gold glitter star foam stickers. Put 2 of them in the upper right hand corner and 1 underneath the sentiment. And there is my finished card. I love the pattern paper with the scallop frames of Santa and the elves and the reindeer. I think that's really cute. I did make my panel just a little bit wider than the measurements listed on the sketch since I didn't want to trim down those images too much. For card number 5, I'm using a sketch from Sketch Saturday. This is number 680. I have the holly paper for the background. I'm adding a square of the green, white, and red pattern paper, layering all of these on some dark green cardstock. Decided to add some more of the green holographic peel-offs, just using the narrowest width and putting 2 of them on the upper portion of the card. And these were really easy to line up since there is a grid design in the background. I know it's hard to see on the video. So I'll wrap those ends around the back, layer this piece on that dark green cardstock. And for this card, I won't have any of the white card base showing. Usually if my background is mostly white, I know this is more of an off-white, I prefer not to have the white card base showing. So I'll add my striped square pattern paper piece. For that banner that's on the right hand side, I decided just to use some solid cardstock. So I'm sticking with the green. Just cut my fishtail on the end. Before adhering it to the card, I am adding some scrap pieces of cardstock just on that lower portion. That way the end of the fishtail won't bend down off of that striped pattern paper. Just adhere it down using some liquid adhesive. Now instead of the circle that's indicated on the sketch, I'm using one of the shaker stickers. It's a little Santa inside a heart and it has lots of gold stars. Now it is a sticker and has adhesive on the back, but just in case I decided to add some liquid adhesive as well. For the sentiment, I'm using one of the foam stickers. This is Happy Holidays. I'm adding some scrap cardstock on the left side where it's going to go off of that striped paper. And again, it is a sticker, but I'm adding some liquid adhesive as well, just in case. For a few final finishing touches, I'm using some of the twine that's included in the kit. It's green and it has some gold threads throughout, so it's really shiny. Just tying a small bow, trim off the tail, and I'll adhere it underneath the Happy Holiday sentiment. Wasn't sure where I wanted it at first, but I really like it underneath the sentiment. I'm attaching it using a small glue dot. Trying to get it in the center. Then I'll also use some of the gold gem stickers, and these again are from Love from Lizi's October kit from last month. Putting 2 in the upper right hand corner and 1 above the sentiment. Kept changing my mind where I wanted that last gem sticker. So there is my finished card. This one's really fun. I love those little shakers. Now moving on to card number 6. The card sketch is from MFT. It's number 457. I have another adorable Rudolph. This is one of the ephemera pieces. Layered it on some of the gold pearlescent cardstock. I have the Christmas tree pattern paper. It's one of my favorites. I'll be adding that on the upper portion of the background. For the lower portion, I decided just to use some solid green cardstock, but for a little extra detail, I cut out 3 different scallop borders. I cut them out in different widths, that way I could layer all 3 of those pieces together. So I'll put that 3rd scallop, and it does leave a little gap between the scallops and the pattern paper, but I'll be adding some twine around that piece. So first I'll add the Christmas tree pattern paper to the top. Then I'll select the white twine, and this has the silver thread mixed in there, so it has a little bit of shine. Put some ATG tape on the back of this panel, holding one side of the twine in place, and then I'll wrap it around the front. I'll trim off the twine and then wrap another layer around. Now the one piece kept slipping out of my hand. That little silver thread didn't want to stay attached at first. Now you could just wrap the twine all the way around the card, but I decided just to do the two separate pieces. That way I don't have any extra in the back and I'm not using up quite as much twine. To secure those pieces in place, I put some double-sided tape on the ends of the twine. Then I'm putting a lot of ATG on the back of this panel. Just want to make sure it'll stay in place. For the Rudolph image, I'll be popping this up using some foam squares. Just adding good coverage on the back side so there isn't one area that sags at all. Although this piece is fairly thick with that ephemera and the pearlescent cardstock, I don't think it would really droop very easily. I'll adhere Rudolph to the center of the Christmas tree pattern paper. For embellishments, I'm using one of the holly leaves with the berries. I'll adhere it using a small glue dot. These are fabric, so I think the glue dot will hold nicely. I noticed one of the leaves was popping up, so I'll add another glue dot underneath that leaf just to make sure it lays down nicely. I'll also add a couple of the yellow stars in the upper left-hand corner. I was trying to add this foam sentiment, but it just didn't look right. And I moved it all around trying to find a good spot for it. So instead, I won't have a sentiment on the outside of the card. I'll add one on the inside later. But I do like the look of the two yellow stars in the upper left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 6. For card number 7, I cut out this frame using an MFT collage die. So it has 9 little squares and then also that sentiment long rectangle. I used the green pearlescent cardstock and I added some double-sided tape to the back side. I cut out a second frame from some white cardstock so I could have all of these little squares and then that sentiment rectangle to inlay into the green pearlescent frame. One thing that's nice about this frame, you can add any of those squares into any of the square openings. Although they may not be perfectly square because I do find sometimes I need to rotate them to make sure they fit nicely. So once those are all in place, I can remove the release paper. And I decided to add this frame onto another piece of the green pearlescent cardstock. That way if there are any little gaps between the white piece and the frame, you won't be able to see it. I'll put my card front onto a card base. Now inside all of those little squares, I'll be adding some of the foam stickers. So there's lots of images, there's some sentiments. So I'm just mixing those up and I think these look so cute inside the frame. I have the Christmas tree, the little reindeer. I'll do a few of the sentiments, lovely Christmas wishes. I have Santa's bag with all the presents. I'll also add a single present. Some of the images are a little too large to fit inside the squares, so I'm trying to pick stickers that fit nicely. I have one of the elves. Thought about adding this larger sentiment. It's a very happy Christmas, but it didn't look very balanced, so I'll pass on that for now. I have Be Jolly, one of the snowflakes, and also the holly and berries. For the sentiment, I'll be using one of the extras from the decoupage sheet. So this is Merry Christmas, and it has little red dots all underneath. So since I just punched that out, it does have those little tabs, and I like to trim those off with my scissors. I'll be popping this up using some foam dimensional tape. Then I'll be placing it in the center of that white sentiment panel. But before I do, I'll add some of the red holographic peel-offs. The kit does include a full sheet of the red holographic peel-offs, but I already had a partial sheet, so I set my full sheet aside. I'm adding a medium width in the center and then putting the narrowest width around that medium width piece. Now on the very right hand side, they don't look very straight since I just used my scissors to trim them, but I will bring out my craft knife to get those all nice and straight. As I'm cutting off really tiny little pieces, one of them fell right back onto my card, so I'm using my craft pick to pull that up. So now those are in place, I can add the sentiment. And there is my finished card. I love how this one turned out. Those puffy stickers are adorable and they're so bright and colorful. Now moving on to card number 8, and this is my final card. Have some fun pattern paper that has the elves and Santa and some reindeer. I'll be adding a stitched oval die cut, and I used some vellum for that oval since I didn't want to cover up a lot of that pattern paper. I'll layer this panel on some dark green cardstock, put my card front onto a card base. I did trim the right side of the oval since I'll have that flush to the right side of the card. I really wanted to add this darling little sign, Santa, please stop here. And I'm also using one of the dies that's included in the kit. It has the elf legs and the little elf feet. So cute. So I first cut it out from some green pearlescent cardstock. Then I cut out a second piece since I wanted some white cardstock. So I'm popping out all the little stripes and the little ruffle on the socks. I have some double-sided tape on the back side. Now I'll just inlay all of those tiny little white pieces. Now this did take me a while to get all of those little pieces in place since I'm trying to figure out where each of them go. So I did cut out part of that portion so you don't have to watch me just sticking tiny little pieces into the die cut. So there it is, all finished. I'll remove the release paper on the back side and then add some liquid adhesive to the feet or the shoes. Now I still haven't attached the vellum oval yet. Since it's always tricky adhering vellum without the adhesive showing, I first want to put my die cut images and the little sign in place. Then I'll be able to flip over the oval and add adhesive in areas that won't be visible from the front of the card. Before I attach this sign, I am putting some thin foam squares just where it goes over the little die cut legs. I do need to add one more piece. Then I'll put that right on top so the little elf is just hiding behind that Santa sign. Now I can put some liquid adhesive on the back. You won't see any of that glue, so that's really nice. Attach it to my card. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with the string for that sign. I thought it might be cute to have the sign look like it's hanging from this yellow and gold star, but it just didn't look right. So instead I won't have anything where the sign is hanging from, it's just going to be a loose string. I will add the green and white stripe bow above the sign, and I'll attach that using one of the foam squares. But I still like that yellow and gold star, so I decided I'll add that along with 2 more of the gold glitter stars. Of course, I can't decide where I want to place them. I'll add one of the small gold stars in the lower right-hand corner, and then I'll do the yellow star next to the Santa sign, and that will help it hold some of that vellum down as well. And then just put that final little gold star off to the left. So there's my finished card, and this is card number 8. I think this one turned out really cute. I love that die with the little elf legs. Now here's a recap of the 8 cards I made using Love from Lizi's North Pole Special Edition Christmas Kit. This kit is packed full of pattern paper, decoupage, lots of embellishments. You really can make a lot of cards. There's also another special edition kit called Twilight Christmas, and I will have links to both of them in the description box below. This kit is not part of the monthly subscription, but as always, quantities are limited. So if you are interested, I would suggest not waiting. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.